Ramapo! Are you sick of DJs who get paid to get songs played off a set list that exists in the money-filled fists of the fat cat? That's old hat. You don't need that. Let's bring back the good tracks with the real cats who you knew you, and blew you away with the way they could say what they wanted to say every day. Let's bring back the good old days when cruising with the tunes in the afternoons was in, and human beings were human beings who loved the simple things, not being rough, tough, or rich enough to buy all that stuff. When people drove with their windows open and listened to music and had good times rolling, and they loved singing with the radio. Singing with the radio. Let's bring that back. Ramapo 90.3 on the FM dial. While streaming online, you'll find WRPR is by the people for the people. And let's bring back singing with the radio.
What you got?
Beasts of the East, and by beasts, I mean beast. Because Scott is not here, Dean is not here, and Randy just left me. He went to go get his pro fries. So, for the first time in a long time, I'm flying solo on the air right now. Last time, I was on this station by myself. Wow, I really don't know. Because I was here by myself from February 2015 to the end of that semester. So it was the majority of the spring semester of 2015, which was my sophomore year. And then Scott came, and then Dean came. I mean, I'm sure there have been times, but last time I was here alone. Wow, I really don't know. But it's been a long time. So, let's see how I do. And I'm recording in the studio inside, so we'll see how that works out as well. So, we've been talking about it a lot. The New York Giants are 2-3. And I think that this game against the Ravens, Randy and I were talking about it before, they have to win this game. This is one of those not actual must-wins, but a must-win. Because the Giants would fall to 2-4. That means that they would be under 500 heading into the bye week, and then they have to play against Philly, against Cincinnati. They have a tough schedule, at least to start off the bye week. I'm going to check it out right now. They're against the Rams in London, and then they play 3 home games in a row, actually. Home against Philly, home against Cincy, which is Monday night, and then home against Chicago. Philly's been playing very well. Cincinnati still scares me. I know they haven't been showing tremendous talent, and they haven't been dominating their games, but Cincinnati still scares me. Chicago should be a win for the Giants. And then they're at Cleveland. They're at Pittsburgh. That's going to be tough. Home against Dallas. That's going to be tough. And then they're home against the Lions. And then they end the year with 2 games on the road. One of them is at Philly on short rest. And then the other one is at the Redskins, who you already lost to in the beginning of the year. So you look at this schedule, and really there are only about 2, maybe 3 games that I'm almost writing down in pen as a win for the Giants. Because the Rams have been playing exceptionally well. Well, I shouldn't say exceptionally well. I should say better than what anyone expected. But the wins that I'm going to really give the Giants are against Cleveland, against Detroit, against Chicago. Those are the 3 wins that I can almost write down in pen. Okay, so that brings their win total to 5, assuming they win all of those games. Against Baltimore is not a free win. Against LA is not a free win. Against Philly is going to be a close game. Against Cincy is going to be a close game. Against Steelers, that's going to be a tough game. Against the Cowboys, that's going to be tough. So they have 11 games left. They've played 5. They have 11 games left. And 8 of those games are games where I am nervous as a Giant fan. I'm not sure what their final record would be, because we've said it on the show a lot. When Scott and Dean are in the studio, we say it all the time. is this team? No, what is this team? We thought we had the true identity of the New York Giants after week 1 and 2. This is going to be a very good defense, a bend but don't break defense. And we thought that the offense was going to be very good. But the weak part about this team has been the offense, which is very surprising because we saw what Eli Manning has done over the last 2 years with Ben McAdoo as the offensive coordinator in 2014 and 2015. We saw what this team can do, what Eli Manning can do, rather. Eli Manning put up his best stats statistically in his career in 2014 and 2015. And you want to include 2011 in that argument, go right ahead. He won a Super Bowl that year as well. But 2014 and 2015, 4,500 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, under an interception per game. He had 14 interceptions in both of those years. So the offense, heading into this year, was definitely their strong suit. Last year, they had a top 10 offense, top 8 offense. I can't remember if it was yards or points, but one of them was 8th and the other one was 6th in the National Football League. So heading into this year, you say don't worry about the offense. Now, it's what is losing you football games. The New York Giants are struggling, and it starts with the play of Eli Manning. Let's go to the phone lines really quickly right here on WRPR Beats of the East. Who is this and where are you calling from?
What's going on, Ryan? It's your buddy Matt from Old Bridge.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? I wanted to talk about the Giants for a minute because going into the season, I don't know about you, they were my NFC East pick. I thought that they were going to run away with the division.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Them or a healthy Cowboys team. Those were my top 2 picks.
So on paper, they're obviously an outstanding team. They spent however much money on a pass rush. They don't have one. They don't have a defense. They can't really get the ball rolling on offense. Coming off of a career year for Eli Manning, I read an article today. Is this the beginning of the end for Eli? I just can't buy that. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think where are the issues coming from? Because you can only blame Odell Beckham for so much of it. I don't know what's the issue with the Giants. They're not what I thought they would be, and they're not what I thought they were after 2 weeks of the season.
You want my honest opinion? I think the problem is Eli Manning. That's my honest opinion. I think that he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I understand that. And like you said, career year last year. Even though it didn't bring them to playoffs, career year last year. A phenomenal season from Eli Manning last year. And you know what? Like you said, how often can you blame Odell Beckham Jr.? You know what? I don't blame Odell for any losses. I don't. As critical as I've been about Odell Beckham Jr. in the past, he's more of his play will never affect the Giants. It's just his attitude that will affect the Giants. So any loss that the Giants had over the last 3 weeks, I'm not putting it on Odell. You can blame the attitude and whatever issues are in the locker room on Odell Beckham Jr., sure. But when it comes to offensive play, it's on Eli. And I know that's very tough to say. But you look at the throws that he is making. They're not good throws. My honest opinion, I think he's playing hurt. There was one play against the Redskins where he got absolutely smoked. And ever since then, he has not been throwing the ball the same way. He's throwing behind receivers. He's not throwing bullets like he usually does. Eli Manning is not playing well. I don't know how you feel about that. And if you want a rebuttal, go right ahead. But that's my honest opinion.
Sure. I mean, I don't think anything changed over a couple months in the off season. But if you think he's playing hurt, I didn't even suspect that. So that could be it. I didn't even see the shot he took against Washington. But I don't know. I know that Ben McAdoo is the one that kind of rejuvenated his career, but maybe it's different as a head coach. Maybe it's the coaching a little bit. I can't be sure. But I agree that if I had to choose an issue, it is Eli Manning, because who else do you put it on?
That's a good point, too, because a lot of people say, is Ben McAdoo a good head coach? And a lot of people say he's not. 5 games is not a good enough a sample size, and thank you very much for the phone call. 5 games might not be good enough of a sample size to see if Ben McAdoo is a good coach or not. But you have to remember why the New York Giants hired this guy as a head coach. It's not an accident that Eli Manning had 2 of his best years with Ben McAdoo as the offensive coordinator. Eli Manning is the reason why Ben McAdoo got hired as New York Giants head coach. Who knows how long Ben McAdoo will be here for? And you know what? I think Tom Coughlin's time was extended because of Eli Manning. Because Eli was the only coach, Tom Coughlin was the only coach that Eli Manning ever knew. Maybe Tom Coughlin did extend his welcome. And a lot of people say he was quote-unquote resigned. I personally think he was fired because, you ask me, I thought what he did last year was terrible. The way he handled Odell Beckham Jr., the way he handled the clock. I just thought overall last year was not a good coaching performance by Tom Coughlin. I did not think that they would go with Ben McAdoo. Was I in love with the decision? No. They had a lot of candidates available. And you know what? Maybe Ben McAdoo isn't a good head coach. But again, it's about the system. They hired Ben McAdoo because of Eli Manning. Eli Manning has been succeeding with Ben McAdoo at the helm. Not at the helm, but in the system. Maybe Ben McAdoo is a much better offensive coordinator than he is a head coach. But you also have to remember, Ben McAdoo is 39 years old. Eli Manning is 35. I'm not saying that there's a chemistry issue, but 2 relatively young guys, one, the boss being 4 years older, I'm not saying that could cause problems, but it is a little different. But again, you want to put blame on one thing. I think it's the quarterback. Because it's funny because a lot of people are saying Odell Beckham Jr. is not getting the job done. Sure, he's not getting the job done in the end zone, but you look at his stats this point in the year, through 5 games. His yards are almost equal. His catches are almost equal. The only difference is touchdowns. Heading into the game against the Packers, so week 5. Heading into week 5, Odell Beckham Jr. had maybe 10 more yards last year, maybe 4 more catches last year, if that. But he had 2 more touchdowns. 2 touchdowns through 4 weeks last year, 0 touchdowns through 4 weeks this year. So the stats really aren't that different. Their fantasy points might be different, especially if you're in PPR. That would be what? About 20 points, 2 touchdowns and 4 catches at 16 points. But his production really has not changed all that much, and I know that's very tough to believe. Maybe his red zone threat, what's the word that I just said? I can't remember, but his action in the red zone might seem diminished, but you know what? It's not. The game against the Saints, he dropped a touchdown. The game against, who did they face week 2? Why can't I remember who they faced week 2? I'm drawing a really bad blank right now. They played Dallas and they played the Saints. Oh, no, yeah, it was against the Saints. He dropped 2 touchdowns against the Saints. And who bailed him out in the 4th quarter? Victor Cruz. Odell Beckham Jr. had a perfect ball from Eli right over the shoulder, and he dropped it at the goal line. So before people say that Odell Beckham Jr. isn't being targeted as much, before people are saying that his production has gone down, it hasn't. He just dropped easy passes. Now, the one play in the end zone against the Saints where they went for it on 4th down and goal, that was a tough play. Sterling Moore made a great play on that ball. But later on, he dropped that easy touchdown. And he dropped an easy catch against Dallas, I think. And by the way, Odell Beckham Jr. has been the leader in receiving yards in 3 of the Giants' games. Week 1, he had 73 yards. Week 2, Sterling Shepard had 117. Week 3, Odell had 121. The game that he was crying on the sideline, he had 121. Paul Perkins had 72, but remember, he also had that 64-yard catch, and Odell did not get targeted a lot. Eli had a bad game, played against Minnesota defense. And then week 5, Odell, receiving yards, 56. But again, that was a game where Eli Manning just played bad football. So, Odell Beckham Jr.'s production is not going down. It's the skill of Eli Manning and the fact that when Odell Beckham Jr. does get a solid opportunity, he hasn't been making it until Sunday, where he made that ridiculous catch. And you know what? People would trash Odell even more if his foot was 1 inch to the left. People would say, how does Odell Beckham Jr. not have a touchdown on the year? Well, you know what? He should have 3 or 4. Just remember that before you trash the play of Odell Beckham Jr. And you guys know how critical I have been of Odell, but mainly because of his attitude, not because of his production. And I'm sure I can pull up the stats right now. How many targets he has this year? Let's look it up. Odell Beckham Jr. in 2016. Through 5 games, he has 51 targets, 27 catches, 359 yards, so an average of 13.3, which is a career low, and a touchdown. And you know what? He's only getting 10 targets a game. I think that's way too low. I will be honest with you. I think that's way too low. But remember who they played against. They played against Minnesota. How many targets did Odell have in that game? I'm sure if I really... Let's see. He had 9 targets against Minnesota. 8 against Dallas. 11 against New Orleans. 11 against Washington. 12 against Green Bay. And only 5 catches. 3 catches, 9 targets against Minnesota. And that game, they just started to feed the backs. But again, you want to put the blame on one thing, and I think it has to be on Eli. I do. He's not throwing the ball well. He's not. You want to blame Ben McAdoo? Go ahead. Blame Ben McAdoo for calling a bad challenge, and that eventually led Green Bay to win the game with the 2-minute warning because the Giants would have had one more timeout to stop the clock, and they would have gotten the ball back. You can blame it on whatever. But I think the main reason is Eli Manning, because his stats might be inflated. He might have a really high completion percentage, but again, that's the offense. Right now, I have to ask you a question. Do you trust Eli Manning throwing a ball 15 yards downfield on an out route to Victor Cruz or Odell or Shepard? Do you? Honestly, I don't. Because every time he does, he throws it behind the receiver, especially in the last 2 weeks. We'll take a break right here on Beast of the East, WRPR 90.3 FM. Jets talk, and then we'll get into a little bit of hockey. Rangers, Islanders, and Devils all facing off tonight. Not facing off, they're starting off. So we'll get into some Jets, we'll get into some hockey, and then that'll be the end of the show. You're listening to Beast of the East with just me, Ryan Morick, right here on WRPR 90.3 FM.
90.3 Ramapo Radio, WRPR Mahwah. Ramapo! Are you sick of DJs who get paid to get songs played off a set list that exists in the money-filled fists of the fat cat? That's old hat. You don't need that. Let's bring back the good tracks with the real cats who you knew you and blew you away with the way they could say what they wanted to say every day. Let's bring back the good old days when cruising with the tunes in the afternoons was in, and human beings were human beings who loved the simple things, not being rough, tough, or rich enough to buy all that stuff. When people drove with their windows open and listened to music and had good times rolling, and they loved singing with the radio. Singing with the radio. Let's bring that back. Ramapo 90.3 on the FM dial. While streaming online, you'll find WRPR is by the people for the people. And let's bring back singing with the radio.
Stop me, I'm all the way up.
I'll tell you who's not all the way up, the New York Jets. You know what? I'm going to say the same exact thing about the Jets than I said about the Giants. You got to blame the quarterback. That's not rocket science. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not playing well. But I do think that there's a bigger story behind the Jets. And I truly believe that it's Todd Bowles. I don't think Todd Bowles is doing a good job as the head coach of this football team. I really don't. Todd Bowles does not play the character of a head coach. He does not do a good job of being the head coach during games. We say it all the time. No changes during the game. A very lazy and bored team every time that they take the field. I wish we had. I wonder if Steve Spanup is inside right now. Steve, if you're listening outside, please come in here, because I hear some chattering outside. And if it's Steve, that'd be pretty clutch, because I'm sure that a Jet fan take on this would be pretty impressive. Oh, the door just opened? Oh, it worked! It worked!
How you doing over there, man?
Not too bad. How about you?
I'm pretty good, I'm pretty good.
Good.
Hanging in there.
All right.
What are we talking right now?
We're talking your Jets.
we're talking to Jets. No more Giant bashing?
No.
I heard you bashing the Giants over there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, I was. But now I'm bashing the Jets.
Let's bash the Jets a little bit
But
now.
I want to know where you think the blame is. Obviously, the easy answer is Fitzpatrick. But when you watch these games, don't you just see that? Doesn't it just look like they don't want to play?
They are. It's definitely sad to say that. Yeah, you see a lot of these players do give it up. Secondary seems like they gave up in week 2. I don't see them around it. I don't even see anybody in the backfield anymore back there when they're going on defending passes. Yeah, and it is easy to blame a lot of it on Fitzpatrick too. I mean, his on the field play has not just translated from last year. I mean, 9 interceptions in those 2 games. Forget about what he did last week. That's terrible. That's terrible. 9 interceptions, 2 games. We might as well have Geno back in there. At least he can run the ball a little bit.
So all right, I'm glad you brought that up. When is the time that the Jets should change quarterbacks, if there is a time?
Yeah.
Do you give it until this weekend?
1
in 5 start.
I know 1 in 5 starts terrible, man. Especially in the division where they're always looking at the wild card, because the Patriots win that division most of the time, especially with their start when they had backups. I mean, we can't do it with our starter. It's very disappointing. But it's going to have to come very shortly. You can't go 1 in 5, 1 in 6, and not even talk about bringing in either Petty or Smith. And which I think actually, let's see what Petty's got. He's been around the team for a little while.
So if they were to change quarterbacks, you would go right to Bryce Petty?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I would go over Geno. We know what Geno has in the game.
Do we, though? See, I don't like when people say that, because this could either go against your argument or it can help your argument, depending on how you take it. You look at Geno's stats statistically when the Jets are officially eliminated from the playoffs, he's the best quarterback in the league. Remember that one year where Peyton threw like 50-something touchdowns? The last 4 weeks of the year, Geno Smith was the highest-rated quarterback in the league.
Over Peyton.
Over Peyton Manning.
So
does that help or does that hurt you?
It doesn't help or hurt. At the same time, I just think that stat really doesn't matter all that much. If you're out of the playoffs, who cares? If that's what it matters, that's what it comes down to. If you're not going to the championship or on your way there, your stats don't matter anymore. And you could be the best quarterback in the league, but if you're not helping the rest of the team around you, get to the playoffs, then your stats don't really matter too much. You know what I mean? Maybe to get paid or something. But at the same time, it's not going to translate.
I don't know if you've heard me say it before, but I feel like I've told Randy, I've told Scott and Dean a million times. There was a kid here. I'm not sure if he still goes here or not, but I used to work with him doing games and stuff. And he was at a commercial shoot with Geno. And apparently Geno had to take his shirt off for the commercial, and he was so uncomfortable with it.
Really?
So that right away, my take on it, Geno can play, but not in New York.
Interesting.
That's my take on it.
To help your argument, actually, and the only other way I can look at it, seeing Geno go in this year, is we never seen him in that offensive system. That's true. That Gailey offense,
And you also have to remember Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall are on the team. Yeah. Who was the best receiver when Geno was the quarterback?
Yeah, you're right. Not Eric Decker, because he's done for the year now. So it will only be
right.
Brandon Marshall and
maybe
Enunwa, who's looked very well. Yeah. Though, for first year guy. I mean, this guy, he's performed. I'm interested to see how he's going to do in the years to come. Moving forward. But yeah. Who else do they have after them? Jalen Marshall. He hasn't really. He's been kind of disappointing for a new guy himself. Dropping a lot of big passes.
He's like Stephen Hill.
Yeah, I know.
Talent, but
talented, fast, but it's just you got to hold on to the ball too, though. That's the other part of it. You know what I mean? Being a receiver. Yeah. we have Forte. It's really disappointing, man. You know, it's a disappointing year so far. As a Jet fan, I actually have season tickets too, and so I get to go to these games and watch them. You know, just it's bad. It's not looking good. I guess on a brighter note, you could be a San Diego Chargers fan.
That's true.
You know,
you could be a Cleveland fan. You could be a lot of fans. So it's tough. But Scott and I say it all the time, and I mentioned it to Randy too before we came on the air. I expected the Jets. If you want me to be completely honest, I expected the Jets to honestly go 0-6 to start.
Nice. I mean, I
did.
Yeah, you're right on point then. I mean,
So, with that being said, though, I expected them to be 0-6, but just flat out losing to better teams. They're losing to teams that are better than them, but the teams that are better than them, they're not playing well.
Yeah.
So, being 1-4 at this point, you look at this team and you say, if they played a little better, if Fitzpatrick played a little better against Kansas City, if they played a little better against Seattle, if they finished the game against Cincinnati, they could easily be 4-1.
Yeah.
So you expect this team to not have a good start, but you expect them to play well and not. You expect them to be quote unquote good losses. Mm-hmm. These are legitimately bad losses where they don't look good. They have a lot of talent, but they don't look like a talented team.
Yeah. That's why I'm so disappointed. That's
exactly.
Where you feel like, you know, I mean,
because they're bad losses.
Yeah, they're bad losses. They leave such a bad taste in your mouth overall, and you feel like you could have came out on top with these games, or the Jets could have come out on top with these games, and they haven't. And that's the disappointing part. And yeah, that's what they need to. You know, I don't know what they're going to do moving forward from here. I mean, I'm not even sure if they're really in it anymore. I know it's so early to say that. But judging by the way they're playing, they need a complete reversal. Like, I mean, could they do that and make the wild card?
I think they can. Well, how many wins will it take to get to the wild card? I think you have to assume. Yeah, you have to assume 10 or 11.
Yeah, 10 or 11. Yeah, for sure.
Let's say 10, because 10-6 is rare missing the playoffs, and of course it happened to the Jets last year.
If they went 10-6 this year, it may happen again because the AFC is pretty good. You know the other team is going to come out of the what is that? The Central, the AFC, Baltimore, that division,
the North,
Pittsburgh, the North. The one of the wild card teams are going to come out of that division. So I mean, you better play well if you're aiming for 10-6 and making the playoffs. I just don't know if that will happen again. You know what I mean?
At Arizona on Monday. And I'm going to go with a loss, but I would not be surprised because Arizona has been playing badly.
They have. They're getting back Palmer this weekend, though.
Yeah.
Or this Monday.
That can't hurt.
No, definitely not. Right?
That can't help, excuse me. Home against Baltimore, that's always a question mark. Baltimore is they fluctuate.
Yeah.
At Cleveland, I'll give that a win.
So we'd like to hope so, right?
At Miami, I'll give that a win also. LA, playing well, still see that as a win. I'm going to assume that they're going to split against the Pats. I think they can beat the Colts. I think they can beat the Niners. I think they can sweep Miami. And and that Bills game is at home. So are they completely out of it? No, because their schedule does get a lot better. It's just the start.
Let's face it, we did know that they had a difficult schedule. I mean, everybody talked about that. It wasn't a surprise that they're going to go through some rough times. You know?
It's just, again, it's the fact that it's how they're going through these times. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like I said, they could have won these games. You know, they could have won some of those games.
Yeah,
2 more wins. You know, looking at a different scenario. You know, completely different mindset.
And you know what's going to hurt? The fact that the Jets can be an 8-8, 9-7 team, not make the playoffs, and then get another bad pick 2 years in a row, where you can have a solid record. And at this point, I would consider 7-9 a pretty good success, because that means
from here,
that means you would have to go 6-5, which it's not terrible. But
what do you think about Bowles in this situation now? He missed the playoffs. They missed it 2 years with him. You know,
fire him.
Get rid of him.
I don't like him. Yeah. I don't like him. I don't know if you heard me when you were inside, but this team just looks bored. They look bored when they take the field.
That's his demeanor too, right? I mean,
yeah. Every interview he does, he's just very quiet, very lazy, very reserved, very introverted.
Yeah, very introverted.
And you can't have that.
No,
you can't have that as a football coach in the NFL.
I guess moving from Rex Ryan They went with the complete opposite, yeah.
But they did go the complete
Yeah.
opposite. And you know what? Maybe we're over-exaggerating it because we saw how Rex Ryan was.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I legitimately think that this guy is just quiet.
No, I do too, actually. I do think he's rather reserved, and I was really excited when we got him because, he brings a great defensive mind to the team.
Yeah.
But
he's a safety by nature.
But see, that's where it really starts to get to me now on him as an aspect. That secondary looks atrocious. This is not his first year there; it's his second year there.
That's
they
true.
shouldn't look that bad if that's his desired position. If he's grown up playing that position, you should know a little bit more about it. And they're just getting torched back there.
That's true.
And that's with Revis too. And yes, Revis has lost steps. He still has a smart football mind.
Yep.
And they need to help him. They need I think they're putting him out on Revis Island, which is unfair to him. He's not the same talented player as he's been. He needs more help.
Yeah.
He needs a better defensive scheme, which they haven't done for him yet.
How much hockey do you know?
Not really much of a hockey guy. I know a little bit.
I figured that.
Yeah, a little bit. I was a Devils fan.
You were a Devil fan? What happened?
I was a Devils fan.
What happened?
Hockey lost me over
Did
the
it?
years. It lost me. I figured I can only allocate
You're not the
my
only one.
knowledge in so much different sports over here. I chose in a select few, and hockey just didn't make it in there. It was hockey or curling, and I was like, I love curling.
Really? That's odd.
No, it's not.
Let's talk hockey really quickly, though. Steve, thank you very much
No,
for joining.
man, no
you can
problem,
catch Steve
no problem.
Span up in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, we'll be
Off
on.
topic with Randy
Yes,
Zelia.
yes.
Real quick, get it to hockey. Devils. Really bad offense, obviously. Last in the league last year. Big pickup with Taylor Hall. I do think that if Mike Camilleri stays healthy, then this team does have a solid shot at going to the playoffs. I really do. I think the Devils have always been pretty close.
How about that kid that scored 4 goals yesterday
That
in
was-
one game? First game, too, right?
First game.
Unbelievable, man. I heard about that.
That was nice.
That was pretty nice. How old is he? Was he like 19, 20?
Can't be any. Yeah.
First year. He's got it. They hired.
Probably
They come
18.
in
He's
pretty young, right? Yeah.
He's probably 18.
Maybe like 15, He's a 15-year-old Russian kid or something. Who knows,
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah. That's very impressive. These guys are young. Getting out there, getting it done now. All sports is getting younger, man. It's
Randy and I were talking about it. When I went to the NBA rookie photo shoot, that was the first time that I interviewed people younger than me.
Wow. It's
And,
weird, right?
you and Randy interviewing people younger than you has become a normality.
Because we're old, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, you're not old. Relax. You guys are in your 30s. I just turned 21. So
We're old and
I
wise.
interviewed 18 and 19-year-olds.
Yeah, it's odd, right?
You guys are interviewing 25, 30-year-olds, which is that's the professional athlete. But
Oh, yeah.
me
Oh, yeah.
interviewing people younger than me.
I remember one time, and so I don't know if you noticed about me. I've worked in a bar many years in
Yeah.
restaurant business, and I've talked to Muhammad Wilkerson actually at the bar, and I was sitting there talking to him. It was during a Peyton Manning Thursday night game, and he sat back in his chair at one point and said, I can say at least I sacked Peyton Manning. And I looked at him like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, with such a smile on his face, and you could tell this kid loved playing football. And he was a kid, he's 23, 24 years old. And we forget, these guys are grown men the way they look. But
Yep.
inside, man, they're still kids, they're still kids.
I know it is wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Real quick about hockey though, Rangers, they look good. I really only have a couple of seconds left. Rangers look good. Islanders look very good. I think they're the better bunch. I think the Devils do miss the playoffs again. Rangers and Islanders will both make it.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I wish it.
The Devil's missing it again, huh, man?
No, I do.
Tour, huh?
Corey Schneider's great.
Yeah.
Corey Schneider's great, but they have no offense. You can get all the saves in the world, but it's hard to win when you score 0 goals. I've never seen a team win not getting a point. Have you?
No.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. All right.
Have him down there shooting goals or something, maybe, too.
Let me know when a team gets a 0 and they win. Beasts of the East became Beast of the East, and then it became Beast of the East again with Steve Spanup. Thank you to the members of Off Topic and Backsports Page and Randy Zelli and Steve Spanup. It is not goodbye. It is see you later. So long and take care, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, and all 3 of us will be in studio. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for Beast of the East.
little bit more.